And we finish this week in National 2 North. But before we look ahead to round 20, we have to cast our minds back to round 19, where Leeds Tigers came out on top in the battle of the top two. The leaders edged past title rival Sheffield 24-18 at West Park Leeds to move 4 points clear at the summit. Now, second place Sheffield did manage to get a losing bonus point from this one thanks to Elliot Fisher's late penalty, and boss Anthony Poser was bullish in defeat, saying Sheffield weren't done yet in this title race, and rightfully so, because there is still so much rugby to be played between now and the end of April. But undoubtedly, this win for Leeds would have given them a big psychological boost going into March, and the title race itself looks like it is becoming a two-horse race between Leeds and Sheffield after third place Lim slipped to a third straight defeat last weekend. Now, Adam Fletcher and Andy Davies' side haven't been helped by injuries or personnel changes throughout February, and whilst it's been a brilliant season for the Cheshire outfit, it looks like the wind has been taken out of their sails a little bit, as they now sit 13 points behind Leeds Tigers following a 45-17 defeat to fourth place Fylde last Saturday. So this is how the top half of the table looks as we head into the penultimate month of the season, and Leeds, as we said before, do hold a 4-point advantage over Sheffield, and they do actually host Lim next weekend. But the Tigers' primary focus will be on this Saturday, while elsewhere Wharfedale moved up to 5th in round 19 following just their second away win of the season, a 32-14 success at Billingham. And speaking of Billingham, they have fallen to the foot of the division after a major couple of weeks in the bottom half of National 2 North. In round 19, table rivals Harrogate leapfrogged Billingham up to 13th in the standings as they picked up a 27-24 win over Fylde. But the team who were hovering above the danger zone, Otley, they've had an absolutely brilliant fortnight. Not only did they beat Lim 31-7 in round 19, but they backed that up last week in their game in hand by beating the aforementioned Billingham 51-15 at Cross Green. Fullback Callum Irvine, outstanding for the hosts in this one. And as you can see, Otley are now up to 10th and 9 points clear of the bottom two. So as we say, a pretty big end to February in the bottom half of National 2 North. And another team making strides in the right direction in the bottom half are Hull Ionians, and they are our second feature club of the week on the National League Rugby preview show, and they actually come into round 20 off the back of successive victories. They backed up their round 18 win over Billingham with a 27-17 away triumph at Sheffield Tigers in round 19, and that was the first time since September that Hull Ionians have won 2 games on the bounce, and that recent upturn in form for the Eyes leaves them on the cusp of the top half of the table, which is night and day from where they found themselves this time last season, when they were battling relegation right up until the final weekend of the campaign. And they did survive the drop despite finishing in 13th place due to the relegation reprieve created by the demise of Jersey Reds from the Championship. But as we say, any relegation fears are non-existent this time around for Hull Ionians, who have been led by head coach Maliq Holden, who at just 29 years old has brought fresh ideas and energy to the first 15 since his promotion from assistant coach to head coach last summer. And that enthusiasm and that energy is something Hull Ionians will want to bring to the table when they take on Wharfedale in round 20 at Brantingham Park. And Saturday marks President's Day at Hull Ionians, where the club will be hosting a pre-match hospitality, a 3-course lunch, a raffle and an auction, whilst also raising money for a local charity. So for more on this and for more on the season so far, we caught up with Hull Ionians head coach Maliq Holden, as well as club president Pat Wilson. Maliq, let's start with you, if you don't mind. And obviously, a weekend off for Hull Ionians last week, but perhaps you and the team might have wanted to keep the momentum going after sort of back-to-back wins against Billingham and, of course, away at Sheffield Tigers. So, how eager are you guys to pick up from where you left off from going into March?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've been looking to get a bit of momentum behind us for large parts this year, and we've kind of had a few little starts and then lose a game. So yeah, we were a bit gutted that we've got this week off, but I think there's a few lads who've worked really hard, and it's a good time to rest the bodies. And I think it'll be exciting tonight when we come back to training. There'll be a lot of boys buzzing and ready to hopefully go and get another win on the weekend.
For those who don't know, who might not be as au fait with National 2 North as some of us, that Hull Ionians have picked up 21 bonus points this season. I know you guys have been kind of on the wrong end of some really tight games, but given that the way the last two games have gone, Pat, has it felt like it has been coming, it has been around the corner, and now you can hopefully build on that between now and the end of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. You could tell. It's so frustrating. Them narrow margins. And Mal will agree with. I spoke to him about it, and it's just like the top 5-10% of the narrowness. But we got there. We got there, and yeah, I think they'll be buzzing for this Saturday.
Yeah, I think to add on what Pat said, I think we've lost 8 games this year by 1 score. So we deserve those bonus points, absolutely. But I think if we change, those 8 games into wins, we're probably knocking on, 3rd or 4th place in this league. So a large part of our performances have been good and have been where we want them to be. But like Pat says, that 5 or 10% is the difference between a win and loss. And I think winning games, it's a habit. So I was really, really impressed the way we kind of came out of the Tigers game. That was a tight game away from home, a really, really tough place to play, tough conditions, and to come away from that win with a narrow win is something that's probably going to be really good for our environment. And hopefully, as I said, we make winning a habit. And when it comes to those close games, we've had the learnings that we've got from that sort of game against Tigers. As coaches, as a coaching group, we talk a lot about process, and we talk about what we do in those situations. So we've changed a bit of training on a Thursday, especially to kind of put those situations in rather than maybe traditional team run. We sort of give the lads a few situations and what would you do in this moment, and almost get the learning from there. But even with that, you can only learn by playing games. And I think, this is my first year leading up the coaching. There's got to be a few alterations from how we played last year to this year. It's largely the same. But I think, when you're talking about the amount of games that we've lost by a small margin, that was something that we also done last year when we found ourselves in a relegation battle. So I think there was an element of scar tissues kind of hanging over from last year, but it's about probably trying to be brave, try and get out of those habits. And then, as I said, hopefully we've got a couple of wins now. It's a good springboard to hopefully go flying in these last kind of games towards the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely, Maliq. And you mentioned there, of course, this is your kind of your first season in charge of Hull Ionians, and if I'm right in saying your first kind of head coach role of kind of any capacity, really. But just listening to you, you seem to be kind of thriving in the environment. So how much have you kind of enjoyed the challenge of this campaign up until this point?
Yeah, I've absolutely loved it. Very grateful for the staff at Hull to give me the opportunity. I've been involved with Hull now for my 3rd year. I've coached at the kind of university level and kind of age group levels, but this is my first proper gig at a men's team, and I've loved it. We've got a brilliant club. I know every club will tell you that, but I think anyone who's ever came to Brantingham Park and experienced Hull Ionians will tell you that it's a brilliant club. It's driven by our community and driven by amazing volunteers and amazing people, and the players. There's a lot of players that have been through this club and spent a long time. So in terms of a player group, it's so easy to coach. The challenges for myself personally, I still play myself. So I think that's been a tough challenge, on game day, sometimes not always being there. But kind of what I spoke to you about earlier, the process side of it, that's where we've got to put so much trust in those players and let them learn and see those mistakes and talk about it and kind of find that middle ground and where we want to be. So I think that's probably been the biggest challenge. But in terms of coaching those guys and the club, it's a perfect place for me, and I've really, really, really enjoyed it.
I think the main ingredient there was the respect that they had for Maliq. He came in as assistant coach, and the lads bought into his coaching techniques, his modern coaching techniques, and they really gelled together. And that's very important within a squad. You've got to have the respect to the coaches, and the coaches got to have respect to the players, and you can see that. And it's paying off.
I think you've got to be confident. Obviously, I spoke about backing the players. I've got to also back the fact that what I'm doing and what I believe in, and back that the coaches that we have at the club are gonna do positive things. I think I draw confidence, as I've probably mentioned, from the fact that we have a brilliant club, and we have brilliant people in positions that put a lot of trust in each other, and that kind of trickles down, whether it's the coaches to the players, or the board to the wider staff. So yeah, I think there was a little bit of doubt, just natural nervousness. You want to do well, but I think you just got to have confidence in what you're doing and what you believe in, and I really do think that the coaching staff, not just myself, we have confidence in what we're doing.
And Pat, just you listening to Maliq, Maliq as well as anybody. How refreshing is it to hear kind of him speak so positively and confidently about the group of players, and also about the wider club of Hull Ionians? Because if I'm right in saying, Maliq, you're only 29 years old, which is quite unique for someone to be in a head coach position in National League Rugby. So that must be refreshing from a club's perspective, Pat, to have someone so driven, coming up with all these new ideas and confident in the lad's ability as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think Maliq gets it from his professional playing career at Doncaster. He's obviously learned a lot from what he's been coached there. It's just the new modern coaching techniques what the lads are buying into. And yeah, it's not just the first team; it's the second team as well. We're training together as a squad, which is really positive for the club. And then if we've got injuries in the first team squad, we can bring players up from the twos, and they know all the drills and everything, and that's working very well.
I think you mentioned it, and I probably should have mentioned it myself. I think for me, the proudest thing for us as a club, for us as a coaching team, is almost the majority of those guys that were involved in that relegation battle, they stayed, and they've kind of changed the tide. And I'd argue with as you said, the amount of close results that we've had, we're not too far off being up at the top end of this league with the exact same squad players that we had, which for me is just brilliant, because I think when I took over, I was never worried about the playing group that we have. We have a brilliant group. We have brilliant players, but confidence is such a massive thing in sport, and I think probably this year has been a big indicator. And fingers crossed, we keep on getting more confident and more assured in who we are as a team and our processes, and we go from strength to strength and really end the season on a high and can build into next year.
Maliq was glowing there about kind of the community aspect of Hull Ionians and what a great rugby club it is. And I guess Saturday against Wharfedale hopefully epitomises that with the President's Day, which is taking place. And given you are president, Pat, you can fill us in and give us the big sell about what Saturday's all about, but more importantly, why it's so important for Hull Ionians.
Yeah, well, the President's Day has now been running for over 10 years. Peter Sharp, the ex-president, started it off all those years ago, and it's something that's we're fond to do it. We pick a charity that's close to the club's heart, and this year we've chosen the Wish charity, which is working independently for schools, hospitals in Hull. So that we're giving some money for those. What I love about our club is we play as high as we possibly can at a sustainable level, but also below that we've got a massive community, not just the second team, but thirds, women's, and mini juniors. And it's a day like President's Day where everybody gets together, everybody gets down to the club and supports the club and the local charity as well. We chose a local derby as well, and nothing better than a strong local derby against Wharfedale. So it's going to be a really, really good day. Also, we've got Wharfedale seconds coming down as well, so not just our first playing, but on the far pitch, the seconds will be playing. So it'll be a really, really good day on Saturday.
And just on to the game finally, Maliq, on Saturday against Wharfedale. Obviously, you mentioned there a Yorkshire derby coming up, but obviously they're fifth in the table. And I think, unsurprisingly, it was a pretty tight game in the reverse fixture back in round 8. So kind of what do you expect from them, and how much would you love to kind of make it 3 wins in a row?
Yeah, well, the obvious thing, we want to try and make it three wins in a row. I think the game that we played at their place was a brilliant game. Probably not for the coaches. It was kind of a tale of two halves. They got up to a pretty big lead. I remember was getting a lot of injuries, and we got back rows on the wing and players playing out of position and whatnot. But I think when we talk about green sprouts that we spoke about earlier, and kind of those positive things that come out of losses, that was one of the games where we realised that, you know, we put in a brilliant 40-minute performance afterwards, and our discipline completely changed, and we put ourselves in a position to win the game. So I remember being, you know, upset with the loss in the first half, but really happy about the second half. So I think if we can put a complete performance, I have all confidence in us coming away with a win. But, you know, they're in that position in the table for a reason. So we'll be showing them loads of respect, and hopefully it'll be a really good game for everyone watching. Same with the twos game as well. Hopefully it'll be a good game as well.
It's going to be really tight. I mean, just looking at the league, Wharfedale at 5th, we're at 8th with only 6 points difference. So it's very, very close. Yeah, we want the win on Saturday at home. Going away at Freshfield is always a very difficult place to come back with a win there. But no, I'm sure the lads will be, first and seconds, are going to be up for it on Saturday, big time.
And nothing better than a big crowd cheering you on as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, a couple of beers, one of Bob's famous pies. Job done, yeah. That's what we want.
So a big thanks to both Maliq and to Pat for their time this week. Really interesting listening to Maliq there, wasn't it? That, you know, despite him still playing in the Championship for Doncaster Knights, he is clearly so passionate and driven to help Hull Ionians head in the right direction once again, and that can only be encouraging for Hull Ionian supporters watching this, and for Hull Ionian supporters who head to Brantingham Park every other Saturday. And as we said, this Saturday is going to be a big one in particular, with it being President's Day at Hull Ionians. Now, the bar opens from 11:30, and those who have booked a ticket for lunch will be seated at 1 p.m. And of course, Hull Ionians versus Wharfedale will then kick off at 3 p.m. It's going to be a really big day at Brantingham Park. So if you are interested in the pre-match hospitality, the 3-course lunch and everything that goes around that, do check out Hull Ionians' website and social media channels to find out if there is still availability and for more information around it as well. But either way, get down to Brantingham Park to show your support if you can for what is going to be a big day, and also a cracking Yorkshire derby between Hull Ionians and Wharfedale. And just quickly, Hull Ionians have asked us to mention their sporting dinner, which takes place on the 17th of April. That is a Thursday evening, and it is an evening with ex-England international Nigel Redmond. So for more details on that and more details on how to book, do visit Hull Ionians' website and their social media channels, and we'll put all the details in the description of this video as well. But bringing it back to this weekend and bringing it back to round 20, what else have we got to look forward to on Saturday? And we'll start with the top two, with leaders Leeds Tykes travelling to 9th place Preston Grasshoppers. Hoppers had their good vibe stunted in round 19 when they lost away to Hull, but it did make life difficult for the Tykes when the sides met back in round 8, where Leeds prevailed 35-29. However, Leeds do head into this one having won their last 10 games, so Preston will have to be at their very best to upset the apple cart this weekend. As for second place Sheffield, they were at Aberdale Park to face bottom of the table Billingham, who have just had the wind taken out of their sails following back-to-back defeats in which they failed to pick up any points. So the task, albeit a difficult one, will be to begin collecting points again for Billingham this weekend. And Billingham may also have one eye on proceedings just down the road at Dormoor, where table rivals Sheffield Tigers and Harrogate face one another. Tigers are 6 points clear of the bottom two, and will be looking to bounce back from successive home losses, while Harrogate will arrive in the Steel City targeting a 4th win of the campaign. And just a side note, a lot of these scraps between sides in the bottom half will occur over the next few weeks or so. So it is really heating up in the bottom half of National 2 North. On to 11th placed Hull, who sits 7 points clear of the danger zone. They'll be looking to build on their strong 41-24 victory over Preston Grasshoppers from last time out when they visit Lynn. Otley will be aiming to continue their resurgence when they go to 7th place Chester. Kyle Dench's side did beat Chester back in October, but the hosts have won 4 of their 5 games since the turn of the year, including round 19's terrific 31-29 away success at Tynedale. And speaking of Tynedale, they'll be looking to get back on the horse at the first attempt when they visit Lancashire to face Fylde, while, as we've mentioned, Hull Ionians welcome Wharfedale to Brantingham Park, aiming for a 3rd straight win.